This video is powered by KR Mangalam University.
After suggesting that the Ukraine war may be approaching its conclusion, questions are now being raised in Western commentary about whether President Vladimir Putin could be preparing a new phase of military or political escalation elsewhere. Russian lawmakers have reportedly approved a new bill that will allow the government to send troops abroad under the stated justification of protecting Russian citizens and responding to alleged persecution. Amid claims of US setbacks in both the Iran and Ukraine theaters, some analysts and commentators argue that Moscow may be seeking to translate perceived advantages into broader geopolitical influence and strategic gains. With growing uncertainty around US commitments and increasing strain within NATO alliances in Europe, concerns have emerged in some discussions about whether European member states could become more exposed to Russian pressure in the future. Now, Russian lawmakers reportedly passed a bill on May 13th that could expand the legal framework of authorizing foreign military interventions under the stated purpose of protecting Russian citizens abroad. Russia's lower house of parliament reportedly cleared the bill, which has been described in some reports as potentially justifying future cross-border military actions under the new legal grounds. According to Kiev Independent, the bill would allow the Russian president to send troops abroad under the justification of protecting Russians in foreign countries. The legislation reportedly stated that troops could be deployed to defend Russian citizens from arrest, detention, trial, or what Moscow describes as political persecution in other states. The Kiev Independent also reported that Russian President Vladimir Putin has up to 14 days to sign the bill into law once it is formally submitted for final approval. The head of the State Duma's Defense Committee said that the move was intended to counter what Moscow has described as rising and widespread Russophobia abroad in recent years. As per Kiev Independent, the chief of Russian State Duma said, and I'm quoting from him, Western justice has turned into a repressive machine for dealing with those who disagree with the decisions imposed by European officials. In these circumstances, it is important to do everything to ensure that our citizens abroad are protected. Now, the newly passed law has added fresh momentum to Western warnings that Russia's neighboring countries could face an expanded security threat if the policy is used to justify future interventions. However, Moscow has repeatedly and firmly denied any intention of starting a war with NATO member states, insisting that its actions remain strictly defensive and region-specific. Interestingly, Russian President Vladimir Putin, in remarks made on May 9th, hinted that the ongoing war in Ukraine may be approaching its final phase or eventual conclusion, adding further ambiguity to the broader geopolitical situation.
The key to success is our moral and ethical strength, our courage and valor, our unity and our ability to endure everything and overcome any trial. We have a common goal. Everyone is making a personal contribution behind the lines. I am firmly convinced that our cause is just. We are together, and victory has always been and will always be ours. Glory to the victorious nation. Glory to the veterans. Glory to the armed forces of Russia. Happy holiday to you. Happy Victory Day. Hooray!
For us here, it is important that we make sure that post a peace deal or a long-term ceasefire, preferably, of course, a full peace deal, that the Russians will never ever try to attack again. And that is why this concept of security guarantees is so crucial, which we agreed in Paris under the leadership of President Macron early January with the US and allies from all over Europe and Canada in the room. So basically we have that now hammered out 90 to 95%. And that is crucial so that the Russians know if there is a deal or a long-term ceasefire, they can never try to do this again because the reaction will be devastating. That's crucial. But at the moment, I must say, the ball is clearly in Putin's court. He has to play ball. He is not doing that yet. Let's see what happens.
One Russian Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missile could destroy an entire nation, Russian military analyst Igor Korotchenko said in his latest assessment. He claimed that a single Sarmat armed with more than 10 individually guided nuclear warheads could theoretically wipe out countries such as France or the United Kingdom. The analyst warned that the missile could be used if Russia judged that its national security or strategic stability was seriously threatened. Korovchenko added that the Sarmat can strike targets via both the North and South poles, complicating early warning and missile defense planning. His remarks were made as he spoke to Russian state media outlet Sputnik, which published his comments on the missile's capabilities. Notably, the Sarmat is designed as a heavy intercontinental ballistic missile specifically for Russia's strategic nuclear forces. Earlier this week, Russia's defense ministry released a video showing a test launch of a Sarmat missile from a silo-based site. The official footage showed the initial phases of the intercontinental ballistic missile launch, from ignition to early ascent. Russian President Vladimir Putin received a formal report on the test from senior missile force commanders overseeing the launch. According to Russian reports, Putin then reviewed detailed information about the Sarmat test during a video conference with top defense officials. Putin said that Russia has greatly modernized its nuclear deterrent since the early 2000s, citing new systems introduced over the past 2 decades. He also described the Sarmat as the most powerful missile system currently in the world, highlighting its payload and range. The Russian president claimed that the missile's total warhead power exceeds comparable Western strategic systems by around 4 times.
Work on improving deterrent forces resumed in Russia and has not stopped since the early 2000s. Back then we had no time for this. To put it bluntly, Russia was going through a very difficult period in its history. But after the United States withdrew from the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty in 2002, we were forced to, I want to emphasize this, we were forced to think about ensuring our strategic security in the new reality and the need to maintain a strategic balance of forces, parity. That is precisely why, I would like to emphasize this once again, Russia has begun work on the development of advanced systems that have no equivalent anywhere in the world and are guaranteed to overcome both existing and future missile defense systems. We are systematically implementing the Nuclear Forces Development Program established in response to this. In 2004, we began work on the intercontinental Avangard missile system. Since 2019, it has been on combat duty. Then we developed the medium-range air-launched Kinshal hypersonic missile, which has been on duty since 2017. It is already being used during the special military operation, but work on its improvement continues, including on accuracy in non-nuclear equipment. Since 2025, the medium-range ground-based Oreshnik missile system has been on combat duty, which can also be equipped with nuclear warheads. We are finishing work on 2 systems with small nuclear propulsion systems, the unique unmanned underwater Poseidon vehicle and the unique global-range Buvesnik cruise missile. Now let's speak about Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missile. We started working on it in 2011. In 2018, these works and the advantages of new prospective missile systems, including Sarmat, were publicly announced. Let me remind you what was discussed then and the advantages of our newest system. Firstly, it is the most powerful missile system in the world, not inferior in power to the Soviet-developed Voyvoda missile system in service with us. The total power of the warhead is more than 4 times the power of any most powerful existing Western counterpart. Secondly, and this is most crucial, the missile can travel not only along a ballistic, but also a suborbital trajectory, which allows it to exceed its range of over 35,000 kilometers, with simultaneously doubled accuracy characteristics and with the capability to overcome all existing and future missile defense systems. By the end of this year, Sarmat will be put on combat duty. Congratulations to the Defense Ministry, all participants, researchers, engineers, defense industrial complex production organizers, prime contractors on this major event and infallible success. Thank you for your work in strengthening Russia's defense capabilities. Good afternoon, Sergei Viktorovich. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon, Supreme Commander-in-Chief.
Please, go ahead, Sergei Viktorovich.
Comrade Supreme Commander-in-Chief, today at 11:15, the Strategic Rocket Forces conducted a test launch of the latest heavy liquid-fueled intercontinental ballistic missile Sarmat. The launch was successful and achieved all objectives. The test results confirmed that the design and technological solutions adopted were accurate and that the missile system meets the specified performance criteria. The ground-based strategic missile system with an intercontinental ballistic missile Sarmat is being developed to replace the Soviet-made Voyvoda system. The Sarmat surpasses its predecessor in combat capabilities, especially in its flight range, payload capacity, operational readiness, and anti-missile defense capabilities, which ensure it can reliably evade existing and prospective anti-missile defense systems. The system is being developed by the joint start company Makiv Rocket Design Bureau in collaboration with the industrial sector. The successful test launch of the Sarmat missile system enables us to deploy the first missile regiment equipped with this system to combat duty in the Uzhersky military unit, Krasnoyarsk region, by the end of this year. The deployment of launchers equipped with the Sarmat missile system will significantly enhance the combat capabilities of the ground-based strategic nuclear forces in delivering guaranteed strikes against targets and fulfilling strategic deterrence tasks. The task set for this launch has been completed. We will now proceed with the tasks related to putting it on combat duty. Report finished.
Congratulations, Sergei Viktorovich. I wish you every success.
Thanks for watching Hindustan Times. That's the latest.